The second annual ACC SEC Challenge pairings were released on Wednesday, and wouldn't you know it, Carolina's going to face a familiar foe, but maybe not where you expected them to.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, June 13th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea, joined today, as we are every week, by our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes basketball team, and a 2-decade veteran of the Carolina basketball camp, which starts next week. Oh, by the way, so Coach Rob's taking off on Sunday, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. I want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch, and a special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord as well. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Coming up on the show today, we are going to look at the ACC SEC Challenge, the pairings, and in particular, Carolina's opponents. We're going to take a look at the rest of the non-con schedule because we basically know all of it now. We're going to talk about a young man named Elijah Davis, whose last name should sound familiar to you and not just because it's a common last name. And we're going to get you ready for Carolina basketball camp and some of the things Coach will see and experience and what we will hear back from that. So, Coach, as we dive into this thing, I'm actually going to pull up for those watching a graphic of the ACC SEC Challenge. This is from the ACC Vantage Point. So it's got all the ACC teams' logos. So this is year 2. It was reported by John Rothstein earlier on Wednesday and then made official by ESPN PR on Wednesday afternoon, what all these matchups and pairings are. And so the big news for the Tar Heels is that they will host Alabama on Wednesday, December 4th. Coach, we figured these dates would be right: Tuesday, December 3rd, Wednesday, December 4th. And I think a lot of us guessed that it was going to be Alabama or maybe like Auburn or something like that. But I think what a lot of people did not expect is that the Tar Heels will be at home. Coach, how big a deal is that?
I think it's huge, especially with all the traveling they're going to be doing first semester. So to get a game at home, especially an opponent that maybe we owe a little bit something to, I think that's a big thing too. So I'm excited about seeing that matchup and maybe seeing some of the adjustments that we made. And what a great matchup early in the year. Really find out how good you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it seems weird to be hosting again, the deal is that not only did Carolina host Tennessee in the ACC SEC Challenge last year, but Alabama hosted Clemson last year. So if they were going to match these two teams up, one of them had to go on the road. Thankfully, it's not the Tar Heels. And Coach, you're right, man. A measure of payback is due. Carolina has taken all these L's to Bama lately. The 4 overtime loss at PK 85, losing Jaron Stevenson to the Crimson Tide, and then obviously the Sweet 16 debacle last year. So I guess then the question would be, Coach, that there is some holdovers. Not everyone is the same. How much would you lean into that if you were Hubert Davis?
A little. I don't think it's something that you just talk about all week, but I think it's something that you focus on your team and what you're doing and making sure everybody understands the roles. And you coach normally, but then when it comes maybe day before and say, hey, listen, we really owe these guys something. We can't treat this like a normal game. In the press, I would, hey, it's just another game. It's not a big deal. It's just part of, we want to, support and our league, and we want to, represent them well. But I think deep down, they really want to get them. So I don't think you make it a weekly thing, but I think definitely a day before or a day of, maybe pregame, it's something you definitely talk about. Anything to motivate guys at that time of the year, I think is a positive.
Yeah, I mean, you can't let Grant Nelson go off again, for example. But, man, I tell you what, I am excited to see that Mark Sears, RJ Davis battle one more time. That was electric last year. Should both be preseason All-Americans, and can't wait for it. Coach, I got a bold take for you. You ready?
Yep.
RJ Davis will not go 0 of 9 from 3 in this game.
I would have to agree with you on that one. I don't think we'll see that again for a long, long time. But definitely a big factor in that game. And boy, that's got something he's going to want to prove too. So I am excited to see, as good as he was last year, how much better he can still get. So it's going to be a really cool year to see him continue to develop.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. What a wild I still can't reckon with the anomaly of RJ going 0 of 9 in that game. With, by the way, Caleb Love going 0 of 9 against Clemson in the game right before that. That's still weird to me as well. But it is what it is, and we deal with it and move on. Coach, as we look at the rest of this thing, it's obviously there are going to be 16 SEC teams next year. They add Oklahoma and Texas to their previous 14. The ACC adds SMU, Cal, and Stanford, so it's up to 18. That means 2 ACC programs are going to be left out, and it's Stanford and SMU that get left out in the cold. You figured it was probably 2 of those 3 that would miss out, but it's Cal that gets to play. I think if I remember correctly, they go to Mizzou for this thing. Yes, that's right. On Tuesday, Cal at Mizzou. Also, Coach, we get the women's ACC SEC Challenge, and the Tar Heels are going to host Kentucky in that one. So should be really fun for Coach Banghart and the ladies. Coach, as you look at this, these pairings, these matchups, obviously, I think nationally, Alabama at Carolina is probably the marquee matchup in this entire challenge. What other games stick out to you from this ACC SEC matchup?
Well, you always go straight to see who Duke's playing, just because that's our big rival, obviously. But for me, Auburn, I got a buddy whose son plays at Auburn, and I actually had lunch with him today. And he said, just from what the practices that they've gone, they're coming home for Father's Day, so he's looking forward to his son coming home this weekend. But he said they're better than they were last year. He said they're just loaded, and even though they lost some guys to transfer portal, they gained some guys that are just as good, if not better. And that's got to be something that, we've got to watch that game. That's one of those ones you got to find a way to watch that live if you can, because it's going to be an absolute war.
Man, unfortunately, it's on the same night as the Tar Heels, but I would imagine that's going to be, those 2 games will be split and not played at the same time.
No way they play both of those at the same time. There's no possible way.
Yeah, one of Auburn's big additions is JP Pegues, who comes over from Furman, the guy that hit that big shot to knock Virginia out of the NCAA tournament a couple years ago on that, I don't know what Kihei Clark was doing, kind of pass at the end of that game. Coach, there are several other matchups I'm intrigued by. The biggest thing, though, for me is the schedulers of this missed a massive opportunity to send Arkansas to Louisville. Why are we not getting that game, Coach? That makes no sense to me.
That would have been amazing, just to have that whole matchup with Cal again. But the one that I'm really interested in was the Wake Forest A&M game.
Yes.
Because I think Wake Forest is going to be really loaded again. Of course, A&M's just there. Especially if it's at A&M, I believe, if I saw that
correct. Right. On Tuesday, Wake Forest at A&M. Yeah,
they play so much better at home. That's another game that I think, boy, that could be a real war. It'd be a lot of fun. And it's super talented teams, both teams, very talented.
And obviously, Wake Forest, for those who aren't aware, got Hunter Salas back. He pulled out of the draft at the last moment. And I believe, if I'm thinking correctly, that Texas A&M gets back Wade Taylor as well. And so that backcourt matchup, man, should be a lot of fun in that game. Also, Kentucky at Clemson is another game I'm really interested in. Should be a lot of fun there. Any others that stand out to you, Coach, or anything else on the Bama Carolina game?
Yeah, no, the Kentucky game was another one I had. I'm so curious to see what this Kentucky team looks like with Mark Pope and all the new guys. And, is he an elite coach the way we think he could be? How long is it going to take for him to get his system in and really be able to develop his style with his guys? It's going to be really it's curious. It's going to be fun to watch them. My son-in-law is a big Kentucky fan, so I have to pay attention to them a little bit more than I used to. But I think that's the other game that really is curious to me and should be very interesting.
Man, should be a lot of fun. Well, again, Carolina hosting Alabama Wednesday, December 4th. It'll be on an ESPN network. It'll be a lot of fun to talk about. We're going to unpack that game in the context of the rest of Carolina's non-conference schedule, because aside from the specifics of the Maui opponents, we now know every opponent on Carolina's regular season schedule for this upcoming season. So we're going to take a broader look at the non-con portion of that coming up in just a second. And we'll talk about that right after I tell you about our friends at Game Time. The NBA Finals are rolling along. As we record, Game 3 is happening, so we don't know the outcome, but maybe you want to go to Game 4 on Friday night. Well, prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Like I said, Game 4, tomorrow night, Friday, in Dallas. Ticket prices are higher than Game 3, but you can get in for $668 right now. Section 324, row P. I checked it out just before we recorded. But the best deal in the house, Section 101, row N. It's lower baseline for $1,465. A great price. There's several flash deals going on right now in the lower level. Go check it out and go to this game in the Dallas area. And doing all that, you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download their app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. With the news of North Carolina hosting Alabama for the ACC SEC Challenge, although I think this year it's flipped where we say SEC first. That's how they keep it fair. I don't know. It's weird. Coach, we now know every opponent on Carolina's schedule, again, aside from the specifics of the Maui Invitational, but obviously we know the Maui Invitational field. Coach, let's take a look then at this non-conference schedule in its totality. 11 games is how many non-con games you play. In addition to your 20 ACC games, for those who aren't sure of just that makeup of the regular season schedule. That's how it goes. So, Coach, for those watching on YouTube, I've got the non-conference schedule pulled up. Coach, we talked about a little bit about Carolina hosting Alabama. You mentioned about the crazy travel schedule. Would you just talk about some of the benefits of this game being at the Smith Center instead of in Tuscaloosa, given some of that travel?
Yeah, I think that game early at Kansas, even though you're not talking about a long trip, I think the emotion of that trip early in the game to be able to play in Fog Allen, it's not like it's just a road trip, a normal road somewhere. It's going to be the game of the night, maybe the game of the week, maybe the game. Going to be that big of a deal to have Carolina going against the Jayhawks there in Kansas. So to be able to get a home game, you still got the trip to Hawaii, playing in Hawaii, playing Hawaii before playing in Maui. All those things are going to be big, long, not just physically taxing, but emotionally. In the Hawaii situation, socially too, because they're going to want to go to the beach. They're going to want to get to see things. There's going to probably be a luau or two involved in the whole thing. There's so much going on that to be able to know that that's a big game, again, national game, to have it at home, I think is just a huge, huge deal.
Yeah, that's a great point. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. You're good.
Because typically Carolina, the way the roster or the way the non-con's been constructed the last several years, the Tar Heels have essentially had 4 bye games, all of which are at home. And 3 of those are at home this year: Elon, American, and then LaSalle. But that 4th game this year is replaced by that game at Hawaii before Maui. And so to get this game at home, a year when you probably expected this game to be on the road, is a big benefit. Obviously, next year, that Kansas return game is at home, so that helps as well, especially because after starting the ACC SEC Challenge first 2 years at home, Carolina almost assuredly will be on the road next year, and so that's a big deal. And also coaches, I look at the nuance of the schedule, like a lot of the Thanksgiving week multi-team events that Carolina plays in, like Battle for Atlantis last year, was either Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like PK85 2 years ago ended on Sunday. And then you get this ACC, at that point, Big Ten game that next Wednesday in Bloomington. So you immediately have to turn around and come back. One of the good things about playing at Maui, even though it's far away, is Maui is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. So you get home, and then you don't play this game till a week later. So you finish Maui on Wednesday, and then Bama is the next Wednesday, and it's at home. So you get a full week. You're at home. And then, folks, as you look at this non-conference schedule, it looks like you're at home all the rest of the non-con until UCLA on December 21st. But keep in mind, what's not showing up on this schedule is that between Alabama and LaSalle, there will be an ACC game somewhere. And got to imagine, Coach, that one's going to be on the road. So, again, even more important, because if Carolina was playing the ACC SEC game on the road, it would be like 2 years ago. And you talked a week or two ago about heading to that Virginia Tech game on the back end of that, where it was PK 85, Bloomington, straight to Bloomington. They didn't even come back to Chapel Hill, and then home, and then to Virginia Tech with no Mondo on the floor. Coach, that feels like it would almost be more difficult with this Maui trip, right?
Yeah, and we took the team to Hawaii 2 years ago, and that flight home just seemed forever. And obviously the time zone changes and all that. It took a couple of days just to get your legs back. And I wasn't even playing. Just as a coach, just as a bystander, the fans, everybody, it just takes so much out of you with a trip like that. To have a day, probably with Thanksgiving, they'll probably take Thursday, Friday off and let the guys be able maybe a shoot around on Friday. But I think that's the biggest thing, to have a whole week off between getting back and, maybe they stay an extra day too and have a day, just have fun out there, which would not be unlike Hubert to be able to say, hey, we're just going to take an extra day. No. I think that would be wonderful. But to have some extra time and it's not just to get physically back or mentally back, but now you get a chance to have your staff really be able to prepare for that one game as if it's a tournament game. And that's the way I would look at it. If I'm an assistant or if I'm a head coach, this is a statement game early in the season. We've got to prepare for this differently than we would for just a regular non-conference game.
Man, that's tough. And when you think of it like that, Coach, I mean, because you also have Kansas at Kansas, they're going to be a top 5 team. I think with Elmarco Jackson getting hurt, maybe they dropped to 2 or 3, but I had them projected as the number 1 overall team in the nation. But the thing is, if they're not number 1 in the AP preseason poll, you know who probably is? Alabama. And then you look at Maui, and you've got UConn, who's a prohibitive top 5 team. Auburn, who's probably top 10, top 15. I mean, this non-con schedule is stupid loaded, Coach. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what the matchups are for Hawaii, because it could be a situation where you go 1-2 and play really well, or go 2-1 and play really, really well. Yeah. And it's going to be whoever wins that tournament is going to be somebody who's going to be a top 5 team at the end of that for sure.
All right. So the only mysteries left on non-con are exactly what Coach was just talking about, how that bracket shakes up, and then confirmation that the CBS Sports Classic will indeed be at Madison Square Garden. Coach, let's move to a little bit of player news, keeping it in the family here. On Wednesday, there was a post by a young man on Instagram, and it leads me to believe that the Tar Heels will have a walk-on edition this year. This young man posted, and I love this. It's so self-aware and hilarious. Quote, "Did someone order biscuits?" And that young man goes by the name of Elijah Davis. Coach, tell us about that.
He is he's just a great kid, and I call him a kid because I've known him since he was 10 years old. But one of the things, working camp for all those years, Hubert just loved obviously being in the gym with his son like any dad would. So as Elijah grew, Hubert just stayed in his gym. So along the way, everybody kind of got a chance as a worker to be able to see Elijah come through and work with Hubert. But I ended up working probably 4 or 5 years with Hubert and got a chance to be in the gym with Elijah 4 or 5 years. So when it came time for recruitment of the young man, we were able to have him on campus, able to do a home visit. So I got to know Elijah, pretty well. He's just a great kid. He's a good player. He's got good instincts. He's just not the Division I athlete that we would, be used to at Carolina. But he's somebody that'll be awesome to have on the team. A great teammate, a great encourager. I got to coach my son in college. One of the things I was told ahead of time is it's always easier to coach your son if he's the very best player or
the opposite.
Not the best.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the worst player, but Pete Maravich obviously played for his dad, Press. He was the best player. He made it pretty easy. My situation, my son was neither, so that made it really tough. But to be on the road all the time and be away from home and be away from family, now your kid's with you. He's traveling with you. He's in practice with you. You get to see him every day. It's just going to be – I just see it as being a wonderful experience for Hubert and obviously memories that will last a lifetime.
So Elijah has played his first 3 years at Division III Lynchburg, and obviously now is coming to be a Tar Heel and hopefully land some biscuits. The two pictures he posted, the second one on Instagram was a picture of he and his dad, presumably on their back porch. Hubert's wearing his UNC 40 jersey, and you just love to see it. Coach, speaking of which, I got a little pop quiz for you. Jersey number 40 at North Carolina is not retired, so Elijah could follow his father's footsteps if he so chooses. But the number 40 is in the rafters 3 times. It has been honored 3 times. Can you name for me, Bill Robinson, the 3 players who are honored with number 40?
I know one for sure because I got a chance to be there when he came in as, I believe, number 1 recruit in the country when Harrison Barnes walked on campus. We were there the first night he had pickup and got a chance to see him and thought, oh my gosh, this guy is really special. A guy right before my time, I think Joe Forte, would that be
right.
one?
That's right. That's number 2.
And
Hubert is not the third. I'll tell you that right now.
Tommy Kearns.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tommy Kearns, member of the 57 undefeated national championship team.
Lenny Rosenbluth was the star of that team.
Yeah.
And of course, I have a story for everything, including a Lenny story. But sitting in the stands one night, and Lenny was sitting a couple seats away from me and tripped and fell in my lap. So I got to catch Lenny one night. So that's my claim to fame for the 57 team.
I love that so much. That's incredible. My favorite story about Tommy Kearns, for those who are unaware, obviously Carolina played Kansas in that national championship game. Tommy Kearns is my height, 5'11", but he was sent out to center court to do the jump ball against none other than Wilt Chamberlain. And I absolutely love that story. Well played there by the Tar Heels. And last year's team for Carolina had 2 Tar Heels wear their dad's number, both Creighton Lebo and Rob Landry. So we'll see if Elijah elects to wear Pop's number 40 or not. Speaking of, Coach Rob is headed off to Carolina basketball camp next week. He's going to give us a primer coming up for some of the things that will happen and maybe some of what we can expect to learn from him from some of the interactions he'll get to have over the next couple weeks. And we'll do that in just a second. Carolina basketball camp starts this Sunday, June 16th, and Coach Rob will be there as he is every summer. Session 1, June 16th through 20th. Session 2, June 22nd through 26th. Coach, would you just, I know, man, we always in segment 3 here get to hear some fun stories from you, but instead of looking back, I'd like to just look ahead a little bit. What are some of the things that go on, some of the things that you'll experience, and some of the things that you'll be able to relay back to us from those experiences?
One of the coolest things is to get there for the coaches meeting at 3:00 on Sunday afternoon and get to see all your friends that you haven't seen, many of them since last year. So it's been a whole year, and just to get a chance to catch up on family life and friends, what's going on. And it's just a really cool just to go around and give a bunch of bro hugs and get a chance to catch up with everybody. That's a lot of fun. The first night's always interesting because you get to see the kids that you're going to be working with that for the week, see if you have any talent, kind of go down the list and see if you have any maybe famous last names, to see if you have any kids in your gym that you might want to make sure that gets an extra foul call if they get, in the lane, and, little things like that. You want to make sure you take care of those type of kids too. But I'm excited because I'm kind of a utility guy. Brad Frederick runs camp, and he basically, like when CB McGrath was running camp, he said, you can work with anybody. It could be the 9, 10-year-olds. It could be the 17-year-olds. You can work with anybody. So I took that as a compliment. I'm willing to do whatever and be anywhere. So it's always fun that first meeting to find out where you're going to be. and not just where you're going to be, but who you're going to be working with. Because you spend most of your week with those guys in your gym because their schedules are the same. You're eating breakfast with those guys. You're on the bus with those guys, lunch and dinner. You're spending pretty much the whole entire week with the guys in your gym. So you hope you're with guys that you like, that you get along with, that you work with before, that you know, that you trust. And it just makes life a whole lot easier if you're with a bunch of guys you enjoy being with. So I've got 3 or 4, I guess just 2 staff members, but 3 or 4 former players are going to be there first week. So they're guys that I hope I get to spend some quality time with them off the court too, and get a chance to see the guys playing at night. Of course, that's the highlight of camp, is to be able to sit there and watch the guys play. A little, not really a secret, but something that a lot of people don't know is that Wednesday afternoon is that alumni versus team game. It's free. It's open. You just kind of walk into the Smith Center. You can be in there, and it's kind of cool because there'll only be a couple hundred people in there to be able to watch that game. Usually starts about 3:30, and on Wednesday afternoon you get there at 3 and get a seat and kind of, whenever they get the chance to play. And it's just a scrimmage, just pickup. There's no announcing. There are officials. They have a little different rules. They play to 35 till half, and then 70 is the game. But it is an opportunity to be able to get in there and watch the guys play live. It's a lot of fun.
Man. And so, Coach typically every summer learns a ton from that game, as well as from the night runs that the guys do, the pickup at late night. And so, Coach, do you find that you learn more from that more official Wednesday scrimmage, or more from the just late night runs?
I think it's more the late night runs, because I think, again, you get to see the new guys. You get to see sometimes you get the deer in the headlights, the guys that they didn't realize it was going to be like this. You also get a little different intensity at night because there are no officials. So now it's some of the competitiveness comes out, and there are guys that get mad and they do yell, and they do that that competitive comes out a little bit more when there's really nobody in the gym watching. And those sessions are closed. You're not going to get into those night sessions. But you get a mix of both of them. And then, like last year, Cole Anthony came every night, but when the afternoon game came, he didn't come to that. So you get a little different mix, and you never know who quite's going to be there. It's kind of, you look at the door, you keep looking at the door to see who's going to come in and play in those night games. And he was always fun because you never knew. Here comes Rashid, and he just would bring a different, here comes Antoine Jamison. So in those old days, to have those guys walk in was always fun. So it's a little different now when it's the Kobe Whites and the Cole Anthony's coming in.
Yeah. And so for those who remember that story from last summer about Cole Anthony talking about how he loved Elliot Cadeau's game, he just needed to find how to downshift sometimes. That came from those night games. That's where they experienced each other and saw that in action. Coach, I remember you talking last summer. That was where you just walked away really impressed by Elliot. And so what I'm interested to see, Coach, is maybe 2 or 3 of the specific players or things you're watching for the actual Tar Heels team for this upcoming year that you hope to learn from what you'll see in the coming weeks.
One of the big things we noticed last year is how well the new guys were meshing even early, even in June. They just seem to like each other. They seem to be sharing the basketball. They seem to trust each other. I don't want to say that's odd, but it was a little bit unusual to have it that early. So you want to see how the guys are interacting even off the court. Going to the water cooler, who's getting picked up, who's not getting picked up. Sometimes that's an indication. That ball rolls. They got 3 open courts. The bleachers are pushed back, and that ball rolls to the corner. Who's the freshman going and chasing it? Because they'll say freshman, and who's going to go and do that? And Elliot was that guy last year. He would go and just sprint to the corner, and now we anticipate him to be in the one sitting there saying, "Hey, freshman, go get it," and seeing how guys react to those type of things. But of course, to see the freshman, see Cade Tyson, the transfer, we're all excited about seeing him too. So you're looking for those type of seeing how they fit. Are they making shots? Are they able to play with the intensity in a pickup game? Are they able to stay in front of? You get matched up with Cole Anthony. Is Cade Tyson able to stay in front of him? Is he going to be able to guard guard NBA type talent? So those are the type of things we're looking for at night. And guys, we're just looking for fun. We're looking to see guys who just do they enjoy playing?
Yeah. And what you just hit on with Cade, I think, is something a lot of people are interested to see, is what we know his offensive capability, both in and outside the arc. How does he defend? How can he guard? Is he going to have to play some small ball 4? And if so, how will that translate? I think a lot of people are really curious to see Elliot's growth from the end of the season till now, as well as who exactly is Van Allen Lubin and how will he mesh and gel with this team? So I'm really curious to start getting just beginning answers to some of those as well, Coach. And so that'll be a lot of fun. Any ending thoughts there as we think towards camp?
Yeah, of course, the big exciting thing for me is to work Montross camp in between. It's going to be the 30th year of Montross camp. It'll be the first one since he's passed. It's going to be very emotional for all of us. We've gotten some messages here the last couple of days about the organization and who's going to be there, who's working it. So I'm really excited about that. At the same time, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
But you feel, been part of that almost 15, 16 years now. And it's part of the family, the Carolina family, but it's part of my basketball family. And again, there are different coaches that work that compared to working, and some of them are the same as working the Carolina camp. But that's going to be it's different pace. It's much more laid back with the father and son, and my dad passing 12 years ago. It's cool for me to spend. It's not going to be Father's Day weekend because that's this weekend, but to be able to spend time in the gym with fathers and son, fathers and daughters. And being around basketball is just really special for me. Gives me great memories of me and my dad playing ball.
Man, thank you for sharing that, Coach. I really appreciate it. And I tell you, from the memories you're talking about there to thinking about the emotion of Eric not being there in the first year, I feel that emotion welling up inside me as you talk about it. And I think it's important that we don't try to hide those things as we have these conversations. I think it's a good and healthy thing for even us to let those out so that people understand and realize that these aren't just robots. They're human beings and the Montross family and everything they've been through in the past year. So I really appreciate you unpacking that for us, Coach. Well, gang, it's going to be a fun week. We anticipate that Coach is still going to be able to hop in from Chapel Hill next week. That's his hope and goal. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. I've got an eyelash that I'm trying to deal with as I wrap the show. My eye is killing me. What's happening? If you are not subscribed to the Locked On Tar Heels podcast already, come do so both on audio and video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and hit that bell notification so you know when I go live, which we'll do after the College World Series games this weekend, both Friday and Sunday. If you haven't become part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you in there as well. It's free to join and the link is in the show notes. We want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow to get you ready for the College World Series and the matchup with Virginia. But until then, peace.